Board of Selectmen meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I will start by granting Westcat permission to record this evening's meeting. Is anybody else recording the meeting that needs permission? Okay. Just 3 or 4 quick updates, Chairman's update. First, we have something new that's coming to Westwood. Our municipal office buildings are going to be hosting a Halloween trick-or-treat time on Monday, October 31st, Halloween Day, from 3 to 4 p.m. People are welcome to stop by Town Hall, the main library, the Islington Community Center, the police station on High Street, the fire station on High Street, and also Carby Street Municipal Building at 50 Carby Street, and the recreation offices as part of the Westwood High School complex. And come by between 3 and 4 p.m. and you can collect what, Christine?
We're just going to have candy treats.
Okay.
And we'll have, some offices will have alternatives for anyone that can't have candy.
So good. That's a nice addition. Thank you. Okay. And how will people find out about it besides riveting TV when people watch this meeting?
It went out with the school bulletin.
Excellent.
And then social media, town's website, sharing, word of mouth.
Great. That's nice. Next, we will be holding on this Saturday a National Drug Take-Back Day. On Saturday at the police station between 10 and 2 p.m., residents, if they so desire, are encouraged to safely dispose of unwanted, unused, and expired medications. And the following qualify for this drop-off: prescription medications, over-the-counter, medicines, pet medicines, liquids in unbreakable leak-proof containers, pills, capsules, patches, ointments, and vitamins. But people are reminded that you can drop off these things at any time in the Westwood Police Department lobby. This just happens to be a day to promote people disposing of these in a safe manner. I'm a little perplexed by liquids in unbreakable leak-proof containers. Is that medicinal liquids? Just to be sure. Yes, we're not collecting paint cans. Okay. That's good. And lastly, we have 2 traffic-related meetings coming up. One on November 2nd at 7 p.m. at the Downey School will be a meeting to discuss Canton Street, Everett Street, Forbes Road traffic calming. An update on that and a discussion of people's assessment of how that's been going. And on November 3rd, the next night, there will be a meeting also at Downey, but this one at 7:30 p.m., and it's a meeting to discuss redesign of the Clapboard Tree Street, Washington Street intersection. A very busy intersection that we happen to share with Norwood, or is it all a little bit in Norwood? Is Norwood being invited?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, on to our scheduled action. The first item on our agenda tonight is actually a public hearing. We are being asked to review an application for a Class 1 auto dealer license for the Prime Motor Group, the Acura Holdings. And there is a new building under construction on Route 1. It is nearly complete, 49,256 square foot building that will contain administrative offices, showroom, service, and parts departments. And it is the site where new and pre-owned auto sales, service, and parts will be sold. So I will turn it over to you, Janice, and I guess you're from Prime.
I am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And your name?
David Rosenberg.
Thank you, David. Thank you for joining us. Janice.
Thank you. Just wanted to give a brief follow-up to your what you said. Says hi. This evening's purpose, this evening's hearing, and the purpose is to AC DBA Prime Acura is looking to obtain a new Class 1 motor vehicle license for, as you mentioned, new and pre-owned auto sales, service, and parts at the new facility. Currently, Prime has 3 Class 1 motor vehicle licenses in town. Porsche Westwood, Audi Westwood, excuse me, and Mercedes-Benz of Westwood. As of right now, I've been in touch with the building department, and they are hoping that the buildings will be ready to be opened late October, early November. And this license would be contingent upon a certificate of occupancy from the building department, as well as an inspection by the police department for the repair facilities.
Okay.
And the hearing was noticed 2 weeks in advance. Parties and interests were mailed a copy of the legal notice as well.
Well, I guess you're looking forward to this.
I am. The buildings were supposed to be done the end of August, so we're really we're chomping at the bit to move in there.
Yeah, and this is much bigger than the Walpole facility.
Much bigger, much nicer. It's really a beautiful facility.
Good. Any questions from the board?
How many service bays are there?
So there will be 22 service bays plus alignment.
And are they visible from Route 1?
Service bays? No. And actually, the reconditioning is in the building behind our Mercedes-Benz store. We lease space in there, so that's where most of the cleanup bays are going to be located.
Great.
Was this the pool and patio building?
It's the
Yeah,
site.
they were both. The same site as the pool and patio, and there was
3 new facilities going in, right?
Yeah, there's going to be. It starts out with Audi, then Acura's in the middle, and then Porsche, and then our current Mercedes-Benz.
It's going to be a busy street. Any questions or comments from the public? Mr. Kelly.
Question on this meeting. These dealerships have gone up, and the notice that I got was that it said for selling used vehicles, permits to sell used vehicles. So I'm a little confused on what this meeting is right now. I think it said used and new.
A Class 1 auto dealer license.
All right, so maybe I'm wrong with the slip that I got.
I can give you the definition of a Class 1
Yes.
license. Class 1 motor vehicle license is issued under Chapter 140 in the Mass General Laws, and the principal business is the sale of new motor vehicles, and is a recognized agent of a motor vehicle manufacturer, in this case Acura, and holds a signed contract as required under Section 58 with the manufacturer. The purchase and sale of second-hand / pre-owned motor vehicles is incidental or secondary thereto, and repair facilities sufficient to enable the business to satisfy the warrant. Warranty repair obligations is also covered under this license.
I must have misread the notice that I got. It said for used cars, I believe. So I was wondering, why am I going to another meeting when these people are opening a dealership, and this should have been known? It's already breaking ground, and why are we wasting time on another meeting?
Well, no. It is known, and it had gone through all the approvals with the planning board, and at one point came.
No, the neighbors.
That's okay. The planning board meetings would have been publicly noticed, and that was a process that took place before construction could even start.
Which we were there.
Oh, the ZBA also needed to go to the Board of Appeals.
Which we were there.
Yep.
And there's several neighbors that were there,
Yeah,
just
and it was approved.
asking what they can do with lighting and buffer and blah, blah, blah. So,
We are being more
there was one neighbor
and
there,
not
me, because I saw this notice, and I came here, I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing different going on. But if everything was right there in the beginning, when the 40 neighbors could hear this,
It was. was done through public process for planning board, and Mr. Gillette mentions the zoning board of appeals. Both
We
approvals.
can apply for a class one. No, we cannot apply for a class one license until we're ready to occupy the facilities. This is the last step, it's a rubber stamp. Because
May I ask why? Why that
State law.
state law?
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the meeting, too, taking the time. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll take a motion, please.
Move that we grant a Class 1 motor vehicle license to AMR Auto Holdings, AC LLC, doing business as Prime Acura, located at 395 Providence Highway, contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of occupancy and a certification from the police on the repair facilities.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Good luck.
thank you so much.
Westwood again.
There'll be a big party, grand opening. We're gonna have Casey and the Sunshine Band. You'll all be invited.
Excuse me, but if you're serving alcohol, you'll be back before us for a liquor license.
Thank you.
Yep. Already on them. Okay.
You forget when you service them.
I just won't have to drive to Whitehall anymore. All right, next item on the agenda, we have a financial update. It's that time of year, we get barely 4 or 5 months off before we're back in budget season. So we have Pam Dickman with us tonight, our finance director. It's time to hear an update on finishing items from the prior fiscal year 16, and anything you want to tell us to set the stage for going forward or not. Yes, we just like to give a couple of quick updates on how we finished fiscal 16, which closed on June 30th. Just a quick recap of a couple of financial items. And we'll do this now so that later in the fall, as you do start to talk about your budget discussion, you have these things in mind. You'll see as we go through this, and there are a few things that we'll talk about that maybe we want to incorporate into the budget discussion later in the fall. And this is just a good way for the public to see the information that the selectmen have. And again, later in the fall, when we start to make budget decisions, kind of what that is based on. So we'll just go through this presentation, and that's what you have in front of you there. So I'm just going to tonight do FY16 results, just quick look at the revenue and expenditure side, slow we always touch base on what happened there, and then free cash. And then a quick status update on a couple of different areas, our stabilization account, OPEB, those types of things. Talk about a couple of items in the current FY17 budget, and the next steps on how we move forward. So first, the results. This slide takes a look at our FY16 revenue. Our total revenue for 16 was 86.89. And you can see by the pie chart that typical for us, almost 80% of that is based on real estate taxes. So as far as collection activity, taxes always come in fine. You can hear from Alice Yalko later this evening, but that's a very stable revenue source for the town. So we, puts us in a great financial shape where our revenue source comes on smoothly at our town, full to budget every year. Other revenue items, state aid. State aid was $5.6 million in FY16. You can see by the bar graph, which shows a couple of years' history with the most current year in green. State aid has been very stable the last couple of years, not really any significant increase. No disruptions during the year. They pay us monthly. Really been stable and fine. That's in contrast to a couple of years ago where we might have some disruptions during the year, mid-year cuts. If you prefer our state budget, they're already looking at some issues for FY17. Where they're trying already to make some adjustments to the 17 state budget because revenue's not coming in as projected. They're saying that there are not really cuts to the board. It's certainly something we'll monitor. But we just want to point out that it has been stable, but if we're not receiving the cuts to state aid in the years going ahead, that's why we have our reserve accounts. So that's something that comes
comes up, we're able to deal with that. Another revenue source is what's called local receipts. We had very strong collections of bond in FY16. We collected $5.2 million in this category. That was an increase from the previous year of $4.7 million. The primary account of this category is our motor vehicle excise tax, and that's what the bar graph shows you. Total collections of motor vehicle excise over a 9-year period. Again, the gross current year in green, $3 million. That's been very strong the last couple of years. Again, some of you may remember years ago during the economic downturn, we had seen a dip in that as people did not purchase their vehicles. That has changed, and that account has come in very strong. Looking at a couple of the bullets on the bottom, overall local receipts. Our budget in this area is about $3.3 million. And we actually this year collected $5.2. So significant collections over budget. And that's coming from a couple of things. We have kept the budget conservative. As the motor vehicle actuals started to increase, we did not chase that with the budget. And also, this is the main contributor to our free cash, where this account comes in higher than budget. It flows to free cash, and then we apply that free cash to our capital. We have now had consistently a couple of years where this account has been higher than budget to this degree. So I just wanted to point out, we can talk later about that as you look at the budget, but we may be at a point where we're going to increase this budget, but we want people to understand that we're going, we did not have that free cash, and so if we increase the local receipts budget, we would use that increase in budget directly to our capital, so that we stay at the same point with capital as we are now. So again, we're at a point to do that because we've had consistently very strong activity in this account. We'll be trying to increase the budget when we talk about the FY18 budget.
Which could involve putting money in capital reserves, not actually capital expenditures.
Yes. On the expense side, just a quick look. For FY16, our largest expense category, operating budget, we spent about $74.4 million with our budget for the operating departments. When departments don't fully utilize budgets, we have what we call turnaback. We had turnaback of about $1.6 million, which always sounds like a high number, but that's about 2% on the overall budget.
How much was the schools?
So we're going to look at that on the next page. We have the budget category on the bottom. Rated at 1.6 come by category. About $394,000 for the municipal budget, $5,000 for the schools, $756,000 on the bulk of us in our benefits and fixed cost budget, $308,000 in our reserve accounts, and $148,000 in debt. So just looking at some of those, the municipal, $384,000, or about 2% of the total budget. And we had a similar position last year where about 1.5% would be turned back. So our municipal budget is about $18 million. We could better utilize some of the funds in municipal, but we're restricted by how those are voted at such a low level. So we're turning back $384,000, yet sometimes, as the board knows, we need to supplement budgets during the year, either from your reserve account or Article 1 and 2.
It's not a fluid process. It has to be done very one item. Tit for tat, I want to say, but that's not what I mean. And so it might also be time in the budget when we start talking about the FY18 budget to see if we could better utilize that process. And there's a couple of things we could look at. One is that new, the Municipal Modernization Act that the state came out with all kinds of changes. They have made some changes to that transfer process that can occur, and so we need to look at that. I don't have all that information yet tonight, but they've eased some of the restrictions on how much, say, the selectmen could transfer during the year from one department to another. We also could look at, are we at a point where we should budget differently? Most of our fluctuations during the year in the municipal budget come in the salary line items. 80% of our budget is salary driven. And it might be things like staffing changes. So an example, in the
past couple of years, you'll recall we had the Youth and Family Services Department happen to have 2 of their employees out on maternity leave at the same time during the year. And because that department needs to be staffed, we had to supplement that department with funds during that year. The library has had some transition over the last couple of years. And 1 year with that transition and staffing changes, they needed supplemental funds. This past year, with similar transition, they actually turned back money. So it's really all kind of, within the municipal budget. It's just really difficult for us to work with some of those fluctuations and results in some of this turnback. Just point out one other thing on the reserve fund turnback. The chart at the bottom shows you the FinCom operating budget turnback. It's $400,000 a year. Often we use that just to supplement snow and ice, and then it's the remaining balance which is turned back. So this past year it was $175,000 turned back. And then the benefits turned back $756,000 or 6.9% of budget. That's really just how we really have to budget those accounts. The health insurance, some of our payroll taxes. You really never know what the final amount you're going to need until actual. So that's just kind of a normal turn back at that level. Just quickly on the bar graph on the right shows a history of how much we have spent on snow and ice over the last several year period. With the most recent year, FY16, $596,000. And it's super clear from the graph that number just fluctuates all over the place. We never know really where that might end up. In the middle of the slide, we're showing how did we fund that $596,000 in the current year. Our annual budget is a $250,000 appropriation. We did supplement that this year at town meeting with $225,000 from that FinCom reserve account, leaving us a balance of $121,000, which we will raise on our tax-free cap, our FY17 tax-free cap. So just some thoughts going forward. When we look at a 10-year average, without FY15, which was such an extreme year, we spend about $450,000 a year. We are at a point where we have adequate reserves that help us work around this fluctuation, but we may want to consider, should we start increasing that $250,000 budget. We had done that a number of years ago. It used to be $140, I think, or $50, and we increased that. It feels like we should be, moving that. And we may not get to $450 in 1 year, but maybe we should, move to.
What would happen if we set it at $500,000 and spent $300,000? What happens? The $200 is just part of the prior page of turnback. Is that right?
It would just be turned back to free
Still end
cash.
up in the same place.
It's hard to get higher than what you do, but
Some towns do have. You could have a snow and ice
Next
fund,
slide.
like we have for our capital fund and our stabilization. So maybe you appropriate $500
So our collections compared to
a year. You could
can
put that
accumulate
down.
to
You
some-
could accumulate it.
That's an interesting
It is to
idea.
help you with those extreme years. The year before we spent almost $1 million, and
It's kind of nice to be in this position to think about sort of peeling off items
other
that we can
communities.
protect against.
yes.
Protect
Fiscal year
against
2016,
uncertainty.
if you guys
It's
have
almost
looked
like
at,
some risk
you notice that,
control.
roughly 5,000
Nice opportunity.
I know.
You look at the chart, and every so often there's a line. Done for one.
But that's a nice idea, though, if we could bank the money
Yes,
in reserve for
the big year. Yeah.
hopefully the anomalies. But
So as we later in the fall start talking about the next year's budget, we can bring some options to you on that to consider. But it seems about the right time.
All right, that's really good. We stopped at this.
So the year-end close of revenue and expenditures leads to free cash, which is really our retained earnings at the end of a year. We have to have our numbers certified by the Department of Revenue, and then it's available for us to spend at future town meetings. So we have just received our certification, and our free cash number is $5.3 million. You can see in the bar graph on the bottom that certified number is in blue each year, and you can see that that's somewhat in line with the year before, which was $4.9 million. I do want to thank Maria Leary, worked hard with Department of Revenue to get that certification done.
Fire
You
details.
can see if you look back at our history, the most recent years our certification has been higher than it was several years ago, and that's very planned and purposeful. We are being more disciplined in not using all of 1 year's allotment. We only apply free cash to
details.
capital and kind of one-time articles.
Further details.
Our
and
overall
further
financial
on.
policy says that we should have about 8% of revenue in our reserve accounts, with 4% of that being
Next
in the
chart.
stabilization fund and
Lists
4% in
the
free cash.
10
So what we've been doing is trying to meet that policy. We get our certification. We plan to use portions for capital. We sometimes have to use a little bit more for snow and ice or other one-time unusual things, but it's leaving us in a position where we're meeting that need. And we're seeing that on the next slide. So to meet our goal, unallocated, we should have about 2.9 million a year. So you can see the last couple of years we've been fairly close to that. The bar on the right shows that if we planned on spending about 2.5 million in our FY18 budget, we'd be able to meet our target. So we typically would start the budget with that. It would let us stay at a high capital level. We'd leave aside fundings for any miscellaneous articles that might come. And this is where we use $100,000 of this to do that transfer each year to the stabilization fund. So we're in good shape with free cash. It gives us money when things do come up or happen. The year before, because our unallocated was lower, you'll recall we did appropriate $500,000 at town meeting to reduce the overall tax bill. So that's why that number took a dip. And that's something, again, as we talk further in the fall about the budget, you can consider whether we do that again. So that's our year-end results, and just super quick on a couple of items to remind you where we are. The stabilization, our main savings account, our current balance after our most recent town meeting is shown in the green, 2.9 million. Really just where we need to be as part of our financial policies. And again, this is our main savings account situations that may occur. This is our account that we like to have in the bank. We would not be using all the time. This is there to protect us should dramatic things happen. The next slide is the capital stabilization fund, which the town has really just recently been able to fund again. As opposed to the previous slide, this is an account that we would actively use, putting money into and then using it. This is a way for us to save for large capital that we know is coming. So last year we were able to appropriate through two one-time sources about 1.7 million. May town meeting we used 650,000 of that to redo the high school field. So our current balance shown in green is about $1 million. So again, this is an account we would actively use. When we spoke recently about the most recent bond sale, we did have about $300,000 that we would propose we could put into this account at our next town meeting. And again, this is a way for us to save for future items. The next slide, OPEB liability. Just to quickly say, we're on track with that. Our annual appropriation built into our budget now, as shown in green, is 1.35 million. We were able to build that through two significant changes in healthcare in FY13 and FY16. We are really in good shape as far as being on target with what we need to appropriate each year to meet that long-term unfunded liability.
When does that get reassessed again?
Would be due next summer of 17 to assess it again. For right now, we would look to increase that appropriation in the range of about 40,000 a year, which should not be that difficult for us to get into our budget, just to keep us on track until we have that next update. A quick look at super good news on the meals tax. This is a slide we continue to show as this comes online. So adopted by the town at the 2014 fall town meeting, became effective January 1, 2015. And at the time of this was taken on, the town set up that these funds would be restricted, not used, put aside in a separate account, only to be used at town meeting by a vote. So we're showing you in this chart, we get a quarterly distribution from the state, showing the period of what it is and the amount each quarter, and then in the right-hand column, the cumulative balance. So if you look at the amount each quarter, you can see that that continues to escalate each quarter as the restaurants at University Station come online and become more active. Our most recent quarterly distribution, 88,000, giving us a cumulative total to date of 430,000. So that 430,000 is in the account segregated, not within our regular revenue are allocated to any budgets.
So at some point, do we start being able to predict an annual rate?
I think we're not
getting
far
close,
from
aren't
that.
we?
Yeah, we're getting close to that.
With some upside, so I'm talking about predicting an annual rate that doesn't forecast Del Frisco's in the revenue, for instance. But from what we have as restaurants, we could start getting pretty
I think so.
certain about it.
Yeah, about how much we would have on an annual basis.
At least during the current economic climate.
Yes. And then you might also want, and it may not be this budget cycle, or, not for another year, at some point, the selectmen may want to look at, do we utilize this funds in any way? Do we vote this over to the capital stabilization fund, or other things? We know we're not going to apply this to our operating budget or something like that, but as this starts to build, it gives you an opportunity to say, should we be putting this into another vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, I know we don't want to go too deep tonight, but I think we talked about $500,000 last year for tax relief.
Mm-hmm.
We've collected $400,000 in meals taxes that we didn't have a year and a half ago, and we have that free cash, which mirrors the amount of state aid we get. So at some point, we really need to talk about returning that to the taxpayers. So I know there'll be some options, but
Yes.
I would expect that $500,000 to be greater.
Yes, that we applied to the tax bill, yes. Yep, so we'll be able to start bringing these pieces to you and looking
Right,
at what that means.
Because that's amazing that in like a
It's like a
15
$300,000
a 15-month span from
Well, it went from not having it.
no to 13,000
But it's
to
all
it's
University Station.
and that's the result. That's what people wanted. So we've got to apply that
Yes.
relief.
And you'll recall when the town meeting adopted it, it was really because our residents understood that they were paying that in every other town that they
That's
were
right.
going to, and that we wanted to collect it from others who were coming here. So it really does accumulate quickly. It's a terrific revenue source. It's a terrific revenue source administratively for the town because it is collected by Department of Revenue with other
Right.
meals tax that those restaurants pay, and then they just deposit it to our account
Quarterly?
quarterly. Just a quick look at debt. The bar graph there shows the total debt the town has outstanding at the end of each fiscal year on the chart. And so at the end of fiscal 17, we will have, as shown in green, $49 million. So a couple of things. The town has issued right now all debt that has been previously approved through town meetings. We have taken advantage over the last couple of years of a very favorable borrowing climate. We have a very strong credit rating with the AAA. It's been an excellent interest rate environment, and we took advantage of old debt retiring and coming off the books. So a great environment for us to borrow. We've listed the recent sales we've had. We have had a significant amount of activity the last couple of years. The $16 million bond this summer at 2.4% rate, a $10 million bond the previous summer, 2.6, and then in May 2014, a $2.9 million bond at 1.6. So that is a lot of debt activity for us, but again, it's been a very favorable time for us to do that, and we took advantage of some good opportunities. The $49 million in green on the right, you can see what we suspect this will look like. It's similar to, if you look over to the left, the high mark on the chart was when we took on the high school debt. Because we pay very rapidly, if we do not issue any significant debt over the next 2 years, this starts to come down very rapidly. We pay off the principal at about $4 million a year, $4 to $5 million a year. So you'll see that drop down. And that's something we'll talk about again in your budget discussion, is that we'll probably see limited large activity like this for a couple of years. That'll let us get back in line, bring our schedules back down, and then look at our next opportunity a couple of years out when we have other debt.
Pam, what was the term on the high school bond?
The high school,
Was it 20? 20 or 30?
we refinanced that bond.
Oh, okay.
And we've refinanced it at a very low rate. I just had that chart in front of me. I don't have
Well,
that
that's
right
all
now.
right.
Sorry. I'll have that for you next
It'll be
time.
interesting to know when that comes off.
Comes off in 2023.
2023, okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yes. Oh, sorry. I thought, yes, so we're in, it's a 20-year bond, and, you know, I always think we've already kind of allocated for FY17, so we have 6 years left.
Wow.
We refinanced the last half of it for the same
We refinanced
term.
it, yeah, we kept the same term,
okay.
but refinanced at a much
Lower
better
rate.
rate. I think it was maybe in FY11 or 12.
That was a
we
savings
turned
of
the
well
corner
over
on.
$1 million, as I remember.
Yes. Yes, so we took on a lot the last couple of years, but a great time to do it. I think we'll probably, not be looking at that level for the next couple, and then it will let us take down our overall debt very rapidly for a couple of years, and then we'll be in a position to look again at some other things that are coming up. And just a super quick look at our ongoing capital, so not debt finance, but that pay-as-you-go capital we do each year with the school and municipal capital articles at town meeting. You can see by the bar graph that we've been able to increase that every year for the last couple of years. In FY17, shown in green, we're spending $1.7 million on school and municipal capital. That's a little shy of our target. We'd like to be at about $2 million for that spending. So again, that might be something that as we continue to put the budget together later, we start to look at, can we continue, as we've done the last couple of years, to just, continue to gradually increase that each year.
Can we, through long-range planning, take a look at our financial policies again and just see if any of them need adjustments? Because I know some are set as percentages.
Yes.
So bigger budget, absolute dollars, it grows with the budget that grows. But things that are fixed dollar amounts, I just want to make sure we're paying attention to what the appropriate, something like this, the annual rate of capital investment is, because we're going to have more valuable buildings come online.
Yes.
And we need to be sure we keep up with ongoing maintenance and don't deliver a problem to the town down the road.
Yes.
Just want to.
Yes, and I will point out that
Proactive.
we've been funding these articles at town meeting with that free cash.
Right.
So again, if we made that change on just kind of changing the local receipts budget, we'd want to make sure that we're still funding the same level here. It's just kind of a wash. Would it come from that or from the resulting free cash? But we want to make sure that we're still doing this and looking to increase it. Just very quickly on the current operating year, a couple of comments. Our current total expenditures for FY17 from town meeting, $89 million, and the pie chart shows you how we spend that, and the biggest piece of it, almost 70%, is the school and municipal operating budget, shown in green, $61 million. Most important part of our budget, that annual ongoing service to the community for our schools, police, fire, public works.
Pam, can I ask you a question about sewer before you go on? And I know I emailed you. I'm a little fixated on this because the assessment from the MWRA was $73,000 over what they projected. Is that what? Did I read that correctly?
Yes, so we did. I was able to follow up on that. Todd was able to get some good information for that.
Because
So
I guess where I'm a little stuck is sewer is not metered, so your sewer is based on your water use,
yes,
right? So we had a drought. We had a water ban. I mean, it just seems to me so odd.
But
Prior
most
year.
people use a second
Prior year.
water meter
But
for
this
that
is no, this
exterior.
is
The prior
so the
year.
MWRA
this is
assessment
prior year.
is for the prior year.
Oh, okay,
And
okay.
when we were able to push back and spend some time, and Todd got a lot of good information.
Okay.
It's really our overall water is increasing, and we believe that that's coming from University Station, which makes sense.
Okay, it does make sense.
So there's a whole new
Right. Okay,
segment. So it's
okay.
not our ongoing.
So there is some logic to it. It
There's
seemed
some
very
logic.
odd when I read that. Okay.
Yes, that was the largest increase in the assessment that we get from
Right.
MWRA in a number of years.
Right.
But it's
does
coming
make
from
sense.
that. That makes sense, and that should not impact others, our residents in the rates, because the rates are generated on the consumption. So
That's right.
we're getting a larger assessment, but
But we pick up the tab.
we get that, and when we spread that over our consumption, it'll be paid by those users.
Okay.
Yeah,
But yes, it was an unusual item where the current year assessment was higher than what we had budgeted. And the sewer fund does have, in a sense, their own free cash that gets certified by the state, and that's where we will pay that additional assessment for this year. We won't go back and change our sewer rates.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
And Todd's going to continue to follow up on that because we'd want to have a little better heads up on that.
Right.
And understand what's going to happen with that. And so he found a really good contact who can kind of get him that data as the year goes on that we'll know.
Didn't he just have a former employee?
That's true.
Thank you.
Okay, and then just the other item in FY17, and this is interesting in what we've just discussed, our state aid for FY17 came in higher than what we budgeted at town meeting, and that sometimes does happen. The final state budget, additional funds are allocated. So the two columns on the right and the bar graph on the bottom, we budgeted 5.6 million. Our final number is about 5.7 million. The final state budget gave an additional $100,000 in the Chapter 70 education aid. So again, we've had that situation happen before. It's not a significant amount. It is a little bit, they're talking now about maybe making cuts to the state budget and that type of thing.
So that all flows straight to the schools?
We have in other years voted that to the schools. We do it at a town meeting vote, but we have traditionally at the Chapter 7. Budget to say, could you allocate that money more to a one-time item, a capital need or something, rather than billing it into the budget, just in case we see any disruption to the state level going forward. So we can talk with them about that.
We also need to find out how much and what they're going to do with their delta in terms of what they budgeted for their contract and what they actually negotiated as a settlement with the teachers. So I think there's a positive delta in there, so we need to find out about what they're planning to do with that, too.
Yep, because they could do similar to some of the items we just talked about. They could put the money away if there's something else coming, or do some type of capital.
We just don't want to get ahead of ourselves and start building budgets that we can't sustain.
That we can't sustain, and particularly here where, just this weekend the state is, talking about,
That's what buyout today already, it came out already.
and they in that same discussion said they're not looking at local aid, but other years we've kind of been there before, and if the situation goes on and worsens during the year, sometimes they have to go back to local aid. So we want to make sure that we're prepared. And just to close out what the next steps are in terms of our financial information and what we'll be bringing to you. So we do just have a couple more items on our FY16 year-end close that staff is working on. We have significant reporting requirements, Department of Revenue. We're closing that out. We're closing out our audit. We'll be able to finish that up and get that into the audit committee for review. And then FY17, our next big step is the property values, getting our values certified and our final new growth. The Board of Assessors is working on that with DOR right now. And then the next step would be to come into the Board of Selectmen for your tax rate hearing to determine that shift between residential and commercial. And then that allows us to get the tax rate approved. And then we want to review the tax bill impact. As John mentioned, we had a lot of discussion at the town meeting about the tax bill. We had laid out some very specific tools we took to try to contain that tax bill. So we want to make sure we spend some time and follow up on that and report back. How did it go? What did we see as the change? So we would hope to, in your November meeting, be able to look at that tax shift and talk of tax bill and values. What is the final university station value increase in FY17? All of that. And then that puts us that in December would be coming in, starting to talk about the budget to you. In preparation for that, we update all of our debt schedules. We look at the financial policies and see where we are on a status. We update, we have a 5-year forecast that we do. So we'd start to do all that and come in December and start looking at the following year's budget. So we try to take it in little segments so that it's not too much.
Right, and I know we have long-range planning next Wednesday morning that this board's invited to, and we have the regular committee members. And maybe in the November meeting, or whatever we do for November, December, we can look at the financial policies there as well.
Perfect.
To see, get some other input before bringing it back to the board. Okay. Great update. Any questions? Any additional?
No, thank you for that. Very informative.
Any questions from the public, since you're nice enough to be here? Okay. Great. And thanks for coming in, Marie, as well. It's good to see you. I'm going to take things a little bit out of order because we've got people here for different agenda items. Let's go to old business and appointments. Rory, you want to just come up a little bit? You don't have to shout from the back of the room. Okay, so we have Rory Lofna, who is interested in being appointed to the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Committee. Thank you for initiating that. That's great.
I was invited by Bob Rich, so.
Oh, well, thanks, Bob. He's doing some good recruiting. I've been hearing that. I don't know what we owe him, but we owe him. That's great. And I know you've done some work for the town in other capacities and a longtime resident of the town. And why don't you just tell us why you're saying yes to Bob's invitation?
Well, I had 4 kids go through the school, so I'm pretty familiar with the issues around town about pedestrian access. I ride a bike pretty frequently,
great.
So this was kind of a natural thing, and it's a real convenient way to contribute.
Yep.
And it's something I think I can do, so it was an attractive opportunity.
Great. Any questions?
No,
for Rory?
thank you. Thank you for
I don't
stepping
know
up.
if you've met John Hickey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I don't ride a bike often, but
I
wish you
just
the
saw
best.
Rory yesterday.
Yeah, I've seen Mike quite a bit.
Yeah, okay, well, that's great. Excellent. I'll take a motion.
So I move that we appoint Rory Lockner as a member of the Pedestrian and Bike Safety Committee for a term to end June 13th, 2019.
June 30th. Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Wow.
That was
Heavy lifting. I don't want to keep you waiting there any
Thank
longer.
you.
So
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and saying hello.
Here, Rory.
And we also have an individual who's been serving as an associate member on the Rec Commission, Mitch Katzman, and he is interested in being reappointed for a 3-year term to end June 30th, 2019. Any questions or comments? Motion?
I move that we appoint Mitch Katzman as an associate member to the Recreation Commission for a term to end June 30th, 2019.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. All right, now we'll circle back, and I'll go to the tax collector report. Not make you sit through another agenda item there, Mr. Wisialko. Annually, we are happy to have our tax collector, our elected official, come in and talk to us about how the town is doing on tax collection, which we know is generally pretty darn good news. So, Al, we're happy to have you back, and the floor is yours.
Thanks for having me.
Yep, so just quick.
Pretty good. All right, so thanks for having me. Following Pam, we all have good news tonight, so that's great.
Yes, thank you.
So this first chart that you have shows the history of the collection rates. And we do everything we can on the real estate tax side to collect as much as we can, and we use all forms to do it legally.
Well, I don't. It's
Thanks for
hard.
that.
It's hard to get higher than what you do, but
I
you're
know it.
almost perfect.
Almost. So on the next slide. So our collections compared to other communities. And for fiscal year 2016, if you guys got the local newspaper, you notice that of roughly 5,000 parcels in town, I'm going to record liens on only 5.
Wow.
So that's really good. We start that list in July, and we started this year with like 82 names, and we worked it. We send letters out. We send certified letters. We call people, and we get the list down to 5. So that's really, really good.
Great.
Other receivables have strong collections as well. Motor vehicle excise tax that Pam spoke about already. And I'm going to come back to that one in just a second. Ambulance and the town accounts. Town accounts represent the cemetery plots. Police details represent $977,000 of that $1.2 million. Library rentals, people pay for an extra trash bin that we collect. Fire details and fire alarm fees. The next chart lists the 10 top taxpayers, none of which are going to be lean, so that's a good thing.
Very good thing. Al, we had a sale of an interest in University Station occurs, so Phase 2 in that title confuses me, but I've got to believe part of what we sold, Mike, is going to become another taxable entity?
Yeah, I think it's gonna split. Phase 2 would be one.
Yeah.
Marketplace would be.
If you didn't already know.
Yes. The next chart shows the split tax rate on the residential and the commercial side. The residential for fiscal year 2016 was 14.66 per thousand, and the commercial is 28.27.
I know that one.
Tax break, we brought those numbers down. 15 and a quarter last time, so only 14 this time, so.
The collector's budget, which including salaries and expenses, and our biggest expense other than salaries is postage, is 191, and the total collections we collected over 76 million in the office. So I think that the tax collector's office is
Good return on the investment.
is the absolutely most cost-effective office within town hall.
You hear that, Mike?
I think there are some others that might challenge you.
I don't know.
Building for one.
I don't know.
I think it's a healthy competition, so have at it.
So if we take a look at the 76 million in collections and the budget of 191, it represents less than 1% of the total collection.
No, I take it back. You win.
Thanks, Mike.
You win on this one. Hands down.
You're
So-
doing something right.
The staff in the collector's office, Janice and Louisa, do a great job. They've been there a long time. And I just wanted to point that out. And they have ongoing attention to detail and accuracy, which is very important in the collector's office when dealing with numbers and taxpayers on a daily basis. We're continuing to automate the collector's office. Invoice cloud we put in, we collect motor vehicle excise, sewer, real estate, personal property tax. And I have a couple items I want to talk about. We also use Lockbox as well. And our lockbox fees have gone down from $15,000 in fiscal year 15 to $12,000 this past year, saving $3,000 there. People still come to the counter to pay their tax bills. We have a lot of elderly people that want to still come and get their receipt, and that's great, and we appreciate that. Invoice Cloud gives people the opportunity to pay. If they pay through ACH, the cost is 40 cents, which is less than the cost of a stamp. If they use a credit card, it's a 3% fee that Invoice Cloud gets. The town of Westwood does not get that. And our online collections for real estate is up 50% from the previous year. So a lot of people are doing that. They see the savings. The money goes right into our bank account the next day. We get a report the next day. It's really, really running well. It also gives the homeowner an opportunity to view their bill, which is updated each night. It also gives the homeowner an option to look at the history of payments. People that are doing their taxes, instead of calling our office, they can actually go on and see how much they paid so they can put it on their income tax return. They also send out emails if you request it, when the next payment is coming up, and they'll take the payment at a future date through ACH out of your bank account if you request that. So that's going really well. We also, this past year, changed our deputy tax collector, which has really, really paid off.
That's an agency, a business?
So we use an outside deputy tax collector for motor vehicle excise tax. We have people that, were in town in Westwood, moved to Connecticut or New York and never paid the tax, and it's very difficult to collect. So our new deputy has done an outstanding job. For fiscal year 2015, for us to print and mail the bills, it cost us almost $7,600. For fiscal year 2016, it cost $5,100, saving almost $2,500 due to the fact that he's providing the stuffing service, the printing of the bills, and the stock to print the bills. We don't do that. All we're paying for is postage. And what he's also doing, he's a lot of the lease companies for we have a lot of people that lease vehicles in town. So instead of mailing out those bills, he's able to send them a file electronically, which saves us more money in postage. So that's really, really working well. Another thing that's important is on old excise tax, like I was talking about people from 4 or 5 years ago that moved and we weren't able to track them down. In interest, just interest only, in fiscal year 15, he was able to collect old motor vehicle excise tax, and the interest was $11,847, just in interest.
So when they finally pay, they've
So
got
it's
to
the
pay
base
it
tax plus interest, correct. And for this year, fiscal year 16, we collected $29,127 in interest.
The interest rate.
It's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head.
16% like they
Yeah,
Oh, no,
like,
it's
you let,
less.
like-
It's less. I think it's 12.
It's 12.
I think it is 12.
I know that's not sustainable because it means he's
But he's collected
cleaning
all
up
that
the
old
records.
stuff, right, so we're able to get
right.
interest,
It's not
plus we
like a
get-
number you repeat because
Correct.
once you get on top of it.
But we'll take it. Right,
Yep.
right. So that's one of the reasons why, if you looked on the two charts previous, it showed, motor vehicle excise tax collections were way up. That's because of that, too. And I think that's all that I have for you guys. Any questions?
So it's, the 100% includes some of previous years.
Old stuff that was
Old
collected,
stuff.
absolutely correct.
That's terrific news, and I just want to, for the public's knowledge, acknowledge the fact that not only do you serve as our tax collector, but you also serve on 2 important task forces. You've been working on the Public Safety Task Force, and you're now also on the Islington Center Task Force, so we appreciate that. It's really, you've been a great presence and contributor to both of those, so thank you.
Thank you.
Come back next year with the same good news, and we'll be
Hope
happy
so.
to have you.
I hope so. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Have a
Thank
good
you
night.
all.
Okay, Mike, let's talk about the community compact application. I first want to take a page from the website and I want to read what the community compact is because
Sure.
I think it helps inform the rest of the discussion. The community compact, which is a state program, is a mutual agreement entered into between the Baker-Polito administration and individual cities and towns in the Commonwealth. In a community compact, a community agrees to implement at least one best practice that they select from across a variety of areas. The community's chosen best practice or practices will be reviewed between the Commonwealth and the municipality to ensure that the best practices chosen are unique to the municipality and reflect needed areas of improvement. Once approved, the written agreement will be generated and signed by both the municipality and the Commonwealth, and the compact also articulates the commitments the Commonwealth makes on behalf of all the communities. This started in January 2015. To date, there have been quite a number of municipalities that have participated in this, and I understand the program, if you want to call it that, was reopened, and now Westwood's ready to participate as well. So I think that I'll just leave it at that as an overview. So, Mike, why don't you tell us what the Executive Function Group has come up with as recommendations? And I understand we have to do a minimum of 1, obviously, you got to do something, and a maximum of 3
Right.
to be able to qualify and have the proposals reviewed, and hopefully we get an agreement with the state.
Right.
So why don't you tell us about the 3 that
So,
have been selected?
you'll recall last year we had agreed to do this. We had taken a vote of the Board of Selectmen, but we had a pretty busy year last year with a lot of other things. So by the time we got to do it, and just as town meeting was finishing up, the program had closed out for the year. So we were waiting around for it to reopen. It was when I went to pick up the check for Complete Streets and the grant that we received, that they were announcing at the same time this program had opened up again. So I came back and we put it on the agenda for an executive function group, asked that the executive function group members take a look at it and go through the various programs that are available and select 1 or 2 that they would propose for consideration. And so there's the minutes from the meeting include the various suggestions that were made, including Complete Streets, human resource implementation of a work-study training plan, conduct an active shooter preparedness response training, regionalized of services, public safety, a housing production plan, an opioid task force, cybersecurity training, cybersecurity audit, and public information request. And then we also included implement a citizen engagement communication plan, implement a solution for digitized paper records, and a complete a master or open space and recreation plan. We discussed the various proposals that had been made and began eliminating the majority because we were either going to take it on ourselves or we had already taken on some aspect of it, like the opioid task force, and decided on to recommend that we go forward with three of the last three I talked to you about. Implement the citizen engagement and communication plan. Nora was quite interested in seeing this go forward, as was somebody else was pushing Donna. And the idea here is we're always hearing from citizens that we haven't engaged them appropriate or enough, and you know we make a significant effort at that. It's not for lack of trying that people aren't informed. We do make an effort. However, we think that there may be some other alternatives that are available, other communities are using, that we could incorporate and get a better rating from our residents. We believe that this is an important element. So that was number one in the selection. The next one is implementation of a solution to digitize public records. We are already making a commitment that we need to do document management, to come up with a document management solution. I believe we've selected a software.
We're working
On selecting a software.
No, there's one that's very good that we know of that is on the state bid list, but just I think it's just money and it's expensive. So.
Right. So we're in the process of moving that forward. Right now, we're implementing a software for the permitting process. So that's taking a lot of time. But as soon as that gets done, this is the next effort. In order to make this successful, when we come up with the document management solution, we will implement it going forward. But there's records going back to make it truly effective that we need to implement. That can be very costly and time consuming in order to get there. So there are a number of communities, for instance, we know Framingham is spending $100,000 a year to digitize back records as they go forward with this. So we want to look at other communities, what they're doing, and begin to implement those plans.
Best practice too.
And the best practice. And then finally, complete a master plan and/or open space and recreation. This has been high on the agenda of the planning board for a number of years in the recreation department and conservation. And, you know, it can result in, for instance, for conservation, a plan for actually maintaining our conservation space, which we don't do a whole lot of, that it will require some appropriation. For instance, this year, there's been a neighborhood issue about a specific dam that wasn't functioning properly off Farm Lane, and the pond actually had, pretty much dried up, and so we're putting an effort into trying to restore that right now on our own. If we had a plan on these things, we could identify what's needed, how much it would cost, and go forward with it. Nora's been looking to move forward on this for the last few years, so that would be...
Be sure you talk to Pam about some kind of budgeting.
Yes, absolutely.
I think now would be a good time to take more initiative that way. It's been something we haven't really supported.
So the current open space and recreation plan was written in 1999.
Mm.
Not long.
Yeah.
Well overdue to update it.
I was going to say, isn't the answer moving the beaver? Isn't that usually the problem for most dams?
There is a beaver.
I thought you were going to say Dover Road, because hadn't there been a problem a few years ago? A serious problem?
This problem on Farm Lane was a breach in the dam.
Yeah.
Caused by tree roots loosening the soil.
Right.
Get rid of the trees.
I was You know, I would say, like, I was most excited, and I'm glad you all were as well, on the citizen engagement communication plan, because I do think, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past, and it's a little bit afar from this, but some sort of mechanism that measures what calls you're getting and what complaints you're getting. We don't have any sort of dashboard on that, and that's part of engagement. Because I think we can put all we want on the website, but if we're not addressing what people are thinking or what they're feeling about the town, there's just a gap. So I do hope as part of this, when we look at this, we look at what other towns are doing in terms of measuring, you know, what they're hearing from people. But I think that's great, because I do think the way we communicate now is a lot different. But part of engagement is measuring the concerns.
All right. So what I need from the Board of Selectmen, and we decided, there's a couple things. We decided we think we're up for 3. The other advantage of having 3 is, like complete streets, it was explained at the meeting, if you're in the community compact, you get 2 points toward the complete street or any grant you apply for. If you listed the complete street, you get 2 more points toward.
It's all good. It just.
So it's all good.
It's all good.
Yeah. So if
It's
we
very good
list,
for the town, and
if we list 3 and those 3 happen to be in grant areas and we apply for the grants, we'll have a head start on other communities in that grant program. So we think this is good. We are, you know, in the third of the communities, but you know, we had a lot on our plate in the last few years.
we did.
So.
It doesn't matter. The program's still available, and they're still encouraging the participation, and it's a good thing. So.
And Paul McMurtry, when we were out at the grant award for Complete Streets, went and see the Lieutenant Governor and invited her to come out to Westwood. He was hoping he could get this Complete Streets, not this Community Compact program approved in advance of that visit, so that she could come out and give us the
That's
the
a lot of what
award
she does.
at the same time,
Yeah.
talking to us about other programs that we have.
So when she comes out, we have to get the appropriate venue and figure out who to have there so that, you know, the town support is around it as well.
Yep, we'll invite everybody. We want to make an impressive showing of that. Yes.
You could stand out in front of the new police or fire station under construction.
They're going fast, but boy, that would be real fast.
No, we don't have, we got to figure out a good meeting. I mean, you know, we've done it before. The Champagne Meeting Room at Carby Street is a room that people can come in and have a little reception, and I remember we did that for the Green Communities Act. So, okay. So you need us to authorize you to apply. Okay, so anybody want to make a motion here? It's on page 2 of this section. Page 13 in the packet.
All right. I move that we authorize the town administrator to apply for the designation with the intent to apply for the implement a citizen engagement communication plan, develop an open data policy or ordinance, and complete a master and open space and recreation best practices to be implemented by the town.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. MPO absentee ballot, new business. This is pretty straightforward. The Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO, has 4 municipal seats up for election. There are 4 candidates, 1 for each seat. None of the races are contested. What we need to do is get an authorization from this board to have me as chair sign the absentee ballot, so we at least participate in the election.
Yeah, that's always good to have your community among those that are voting.
As opposed to not showing up, which we want to remind people on November 8th or starting October 24th, you can start voting in the presidential election.
November 28th.
No, 24th.
Yeah.
That's next Monday.
I think on Saturday Night Live they said November 35th. That was a good idea. Okay, any discussion?
No, we do this every year, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I move that we authorize the chairman to sign the Metro Planning Organization absentee ballot to be mailed to the MPO office.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, pretty straightforward stuff. I see we have updates on the fire and police stations. I'm just going to summarize it by both are progressing well. And I encourage anybody to go by, drive by, and see the progress that's being made. And I believe for the fire station, the brickwork is, I know it's moving along. Do you know when it's supposed to wrap up? It seemed to indicate in the...
Next couple of weeks, I believe.
Yeah. It'd be nice not to have the yellow and blue
Yeah.
showing, but we know you have to do something to get there. Anyway, it's looking great, and we'll stay abreast of that going forward. And the gift that keeps giving, we have the article, or the item that we just keep revisiting. This is the shared ambulance. So now we're being asked to revisit our last vote that had us acknowledging that this shared ambulance would be housed by the Canton Fire Department. But now we're being told that once the new Sharon Fire Department is completed, the ambulance will be moved there. So we're being asked to sign a new agreement that is not specific as to where it's housed in the event that it is relocated another time. So this is purely to have it be open-ended, but we know that, you know, what the plan is behind this need to change it. So any discussion?
No.
None.
Okay, motion, please.
I move that we vote to approve and sign the amended unstaffed ambulance
Original,
agreement.
Do you have an original we can sign? I'll just take one out.
I have it,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Anything else that may properly come before the board? Would the press like to ask anything? Thank you for coming. It's good to see you. Our next meeting will be on Monday, November 7th, here in the Selectmen's Meeting Room. It's the night before the presidential election. Again, starting October 24th, there is early voting that will be taking place at the Carby Street Municipal Building at 50 Carby Street. If anybody wants to vote starting October 24th, they can do so. Look on the town website for the hours of opening for the early election. We are not going into executive session tonight, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.